dog must card with a sweet one bliss. Someone flicks me a back by the end. Say, oh, it's another one. It's another one, yeah. It's a full strong, yeah. Oh, it's another one. It's another one, yeah.
Yes, fight fans. We are back with an iBoxingHub special. I have with me the one and only Mr. Adam Smith, who's joined us today from his holidays in the USA. Very, very grateful, sir, and thank you for coming on the show today.
Absolute pleasure. Great seeing you, and really lovely to be talking boxing. Something I've been gripped by since I was a little kid. I love all sports, but boxing seems to have been my business for the last 35 years. And I'm lucky to have done what I've I guess dreamt of since I was a youngster. I've got 3 kids, and I always try and say to them, follow your dreams. And I wanted to be a sports commentator when I was 9-10 years old, and I'm very fortunate to have been covering boxing for a long time. Had a wonderful career with Sky, had some incredible moments with the various different fighters and promoters, and not just the big ones like AJ and Tyson, and back in the days of Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson and all those, but many of the others that have come through over the years. And I've just been very privileged. I adore athletes. They're my idols. They're my heroes, men and women. I've really tried to push women's boxing hugely over the last few years, especially at Sky. And I think that, our athletes are there to be looked after and to be admired. And I'm just very lucky to be, at the safe side of the ropes, calling the action or writing about it. And I always try and keep very, very humble, because ultimately they are they're the reason that we're here and all doing this work. And they're phenomenal. So I admire all sportsmen and women, but fighters are a different breed. And I've been very lucky enough to have traveled the world and been in camp with many of them, from the great Floyd Mayweather to Roy Jones, Oscar de la Hoya, my old friend Diego Corrales, Johnny Tapia, all those sort of people, the Klitschko's, the heavyweights, the lightweights, Prince Nassim Hamed, Ricky Hatton, from start to finish. All of those sort of stories have been amazing.
Incredible.
I also admire the journeymen too, and what they put into the sport. So anyone that puts a pair of gloves on has my enormous respect.
That's the respect. Absolutely.
I do it.
Well, Adam, let me take you back to 1994, and you first joined Sky. You left Warwick University, where I would imagine in a degree in journalism, and you went there, for my information is correct, as when you first started with Sky, was a junior production, and then you went on to become producer very quickly. You're obviously recognised very early on in your career within Sky. How can you pinpoint the actual moment when either you approached them or they approached you to actually become part of the commentary team?
That's a really good question, and excellent background information. Warwick was a great fun time for me. I did theatre studies and dramatic arts, so I was sort of toying whether to become, or hopefully become, a sports broadcaster, or also at that point maybe an actor, but I wasn't nearly good enough on the stage. Many others were better than me, but everyone said to me, look, you've got a good voice, and you should go down the sports road. That's what you really love. And I've been sort of thinking about it for many years, commentating, when the sound turned down on the television into dictaphones when I was young. I always wanted to do it, and I worked at ITN. I worked at CNN actually over here in Washington, and then I worked at ITN in England on the home news desk. While I was there, I was just desperate to try and get into sports TV, so that was the big aim. And Sky took me on August 1994 as a junior. You're right, and I worked on the boxing, and I also did a program called 1 to 1, where I did the voiceover, sort of introduction to a sports interview every week, and also worked on the Footballers Football Show. I worked on Sports Centre, which was the old Sky Sports News. So they had me thrown around a little bit, and yeah, I ended up voicing stuff pretty early. So I became a young reporter, and then yeah, a reporter just sort of developed. I did that for many, many years. I worked as an assistant producer in the VT trucks as well, learning about replay, that side of things. So I sort of got a good sort of rounded experience. And then I really wanted to commentate. And my first commentary moment, and I sort of kept knocking on the door, kept asking, was actually when Johnny Nelson won, my best friend in boxing probably, was when he won his world title at the 4th attempt against Carl Thompson. And he was it was a 3rd attempt. Maybe I've done Johnny some disservice there. But anyway, he beat Carl in 5 rounds in Derby. And on the undercard that night, they gave me my first commentary. And I remember holding the mic and thinking, and they go, right, 10, 5, 3, 2, 1, off you go, round 1. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I've actually got to talk now. It was like quite a really surreal moment. But I guess, look, I had, there was a boss called Vic Wakeling, who was really into boxing. He was the head of Sky Sports then. So I think I had my opportunities to commentate under Ian Darke. Ian was the main commentator. I still believe Ian is the greatest commentator in Britain. And
he is one of my favourite as well.
Yeah, he's amazing. I learned so much of him and Jim Watt and Glenn McCrory and Bob Mee and that sort of era. And we had some obviously great fights, especially in the heavyweight division, and over here with the sort of Brunos and Eubanks and Benns and all of those sorts. So it was great. And I think then it changed for me when I became, I presented as well a bit, but it changed for me when I became head of boxing at Sky. And that was under a brilliant guy called Barney Francis, who was the managing director of Sky Sports at the time. And he was an absolute mad boxing fan. So although he was dealing with football and with cricket and golf and Formula One and all the other major sports, he had a real soft spot for boxing. So, and that was the time where we'd had really good, relationships with the likes of Ricky Hatton and Frank Maloney and Frank Warren and Mick Hennessy, and great sort of content over the years. But we felt that we needed like one promoter to take us to a bigger level, from leisure centres to arenas. So Eddie came in at the right time, and Eddie was just learning his trade really. And that began an incredible relationship with Barney, Eddie, myself, my amazing team, and a phenomenal team who were really creative and brilliant. And Matchroom were growing, and it was a fantastic era, that sort of 2012 to 2018, 19 sort of times, with AJ and Hay Bellew, Froch Groves, of course. All of those times were amazing. So yeah, that was fantastic. So I think, yeah, it happened sort of, I guess embryonically at the beginning. It just sort of developed from running around doing all sorts of bits and pieces to writing stuff, to voicing stuff, to reporting, to commentating, to presenting. I tell you, someone at ITN told me once we were dealing with an accident we were doing home news, and we were dealing with an accident on the Mull of Kintyre. A helicopter had crashed. And it was I remember that. It was a really big story, and I was on the home news desk when the story broke. And my job as an assignments guy was to get cameramen and reporters to the Mull of Kintyre. Yeah. Really, really difficult, because we didn't know whether to come up from Wales or go over from Britain. It was a really difficult place to get to. And the guy who was next to me was a guy called Simon Cole, who was the news editor at ITN, and then became the deputy news editor of Sky News for many years. And Simon said to me, you've got to get these guys out, blah, blah. And I said to him, how do you know where you can, how this all happens out there in the field? And he said, because I've done all these roles. He said, I've been a cameraman, I've been a sound guy, I've been a reporter, and then he was an editor. So I sort of learned at an early age that you've got to try and do a bit of everything to sort of understand where, the director in the truck, what they're thinking, or the producer is thinking when he's creating or she's creating the show. And I think I was lucky enough to build a great team, really good women and great guys as well, internally in the boxing team. So I had fantastic people around me, but I guess I understood the sport because I'd been around the world and I'd experienced different things. So I was very fortunate to have those opportunities from Sky in the early days when there was only 45, 50 of us in Sky Sports. Now it's obviously huge machine.
Obviously
early
a
days,
massive.
early opportunities, I think.
Yeah, and obviously the growth for me, especially with Sky Sports Boxing, is obviously down to the voice of boxing of Sky Sports at that time, which was both Ian Dark and yourself going through there. Just how difficult. I mean, I do it at a very modest scale compared to your good self, but I appreciate just how difficult the research is into each and every fight that you do as a commentator, and then to integrate all that information to the public and the viewing audience, and just gives it your thoughts on just how hard it was doing that for all them big fights, and obviously keeping your emotions in check at the same time. Though I have to take issue with you over AJ and Andy Ruiz. I mean, that was just fantastic watching your reactions there, and they're the type of things like Reg Guttridge, Jim Watt. These guys were so influential to people like me who wanted to become involved in media and sports broadcasting and things like that. Did you take things off other people and mix it in yourself, and just to create your style? Because you've got that velvet dulcet tones for boxing commentary. You make it look effortless. It's annoying, Adam. Just give me an actual. Tell me it's hard at least.
It is hard, and it's. I've got respect for everybody that commentates, or whether they get in the ring or they do the commentary or they do a job on it. Right? I think it's really difficult. I don't know. Look, when I was growing up, I had friends who wanted to go and be lawyers, or they wanted to go and be doctors, or different things. I always wanted to be a sports commentator. You ask my friends, I'm football mad. I'm a huge Liverpool fan. I'm cricket mad. I love darts. I love snooker. I love horse racing. I love golf. There's not many sports that I just can't sit and watch. If I had time, I don't have that time, but I love sports. And I think that because I wasn't very good at playing sports, I can play mild tennis and a little bit of table tennis I play here, but I'm really not good. And I think that because I'm not good, and everyone around me was better, I think I thought, well, I love this, but I can't do it. So I've got to learn about these sports so I can talk about them and write about them. So I did a lot of practice when I was young. So I think it's dedication. I'd never ever wanted to do anything else, really. I said about acting, that was really a pipe dream. More, I really wanted to be a sports commentator, not necessarily a boxing commentator. I mean, my heroes were Tommy Hearns and Barry McGuigan, but also I had heroes in football, in Kenny Dalglish and Sammy Lee and the Liverpool guys. I had heroes in tennis, Monica Seles and John McEnroe and Alex Hurricane Higgins in snooker, Maverick Genius.
Oh.
And I think that I've always admired those sort of people. So I guess, look, it's passion, it's hard work, it's dedication, it's research, it's knowledge. It is definitively learning off the likes of legends like Reg Guttridge, like Harry Carpenter, like Des Lynam, like Ian.
Des.
And many others, and it's talking to the likes of the late Bert Sugar and Dan Rayfield and all the guys in the States, and it's just learning things and picking up things. And I think Bob Mee, my historian at Sky, was absolutely crucial to it all, because he wrote some phenomenal sort of previews to fights. He was brilliant to sit next to. I think when I sat next to him and commentate, I always felt sort of relaxed. But I think, Ian said to me once, he said that you'll look back at your first 3 or 4 years of commentary and you'll just be really embarrassed because it'll be all like really high pitched and all that. And I think you sort of learn over the years to relax a bit more. And people always are going to be subjective. Some people hate you, some people like you, some people think you're this, some people think you're that, you never laced a glove on, you're a posh public school boy, you're this, you're that. Or they'll say you've got a great voice and you make the action fantastic and we love hearing you. So there's a complete mixture out there. No one's right or wrong. I don't see myself as a great commentator. I see myself as somebody who loves it and who really tries. And I give as much effort into my GBM work with fighters who are 4-0 or 8-2 or whatever. With Izzy, and I'm really enjoying the promotional side of that. Like I do with my managing athletes with Summit, I'm a passionate person, and that's what I love doing. I love helping, and I love storytelling and adding to the picture. And I think I've always, when I was a kid, I was under my duvet listening to a radio at night and imagining the football or imagining that. And I think I've always had this very vivid sort of imagination where I love to tell the stories. And so when I'm provided with these fighters who've got these great backgrounds, Miguel Cotto and Sugar Shane Mosley and De La Hoya and all these great guys I had a chance to work with. And then the women coming up, Katie Taylor, the pioneer, and Tasha Jonas and Savannah Marshall, and on all of those, I absolutely had a fantastic time, and I really admire them. So I think it is tough, it is hard. I don't think it's just you get on a mic and you go it. You've got to research, you've got to really want to do it, and I think you've got to relax and enjoy your conversation. I think the co-commentator is crucial. I was lucky enough to learn my education with Jim Watt, which was he was the best. And then I've had a string of fantastic people to work with. You're talking about Matt Macklin, Paul Smith, Alex Arthur, Paulie Malignaggi, Carl Froch, Deontay Wilder, David Hay. All these great people. AJ I've commentated with. So many people, and I think Darren Barker's another one. Andy Lee, loads of different. Barry Jones, Johnny, of course, and so many. Spencer Oliver, so many. Who are really passionate. And I think I love people who have got passion, who absolutely love what they do. And I think boxing is a really difficult sport. We know it's unpredictable. It can be chaotic. It can be really hard, and it can be exhilarating at the same time, which is why it's a sort of 24/7 sport. And it's a sport that you've got to be all encompassed in. And it's a sport that I gave everything to at Sky. And
you did.
After 30 years, I became ill, and I think I think all my sort of strain mentally and physically I put on my body maybe led to something, and I had to take some time out. And I think coming back from that, recovering from my cancer, I'm a different person. I'm not a different person. I'm the same person as I was, but I'm a different version of myself. I guess I'm a lot calmer.
As you would be.
I've got a different perspective to life. I want to balance my life more. I don't want to be traveling every 5 minutes like I used to. I don't want to be, engaged in it all the time. And it's a very difficult sport to sort of dip in and out. So when I'm asked to do something, I want to research it properly. And as I said, whether it's the show we've got at GBM on the 27th of September, our next show in Sheffield, which is a fantastic.
That's right.
Terrific.
That'll be the Nowhere to Hide show.
Yeah,
Thompson and Wilson Ben.
Yeah, that's a lovely fight. Shaq Thompson, we've got really big plans for. He's a very tall, dangerous middleweight, lovely guy. You've also got two other fantastic fights. Ryan Walsh and Reese Mould is a real good fight, and
I like Reese.
Tori Alice Willits, and you've got Hughie Fury on the card. You've got Maxie Hughes, Jack Basin. It's going to be a great night. But even like a night like that compared to a night the week before, which is AJ and Dubois, it's these nights are as important to these fighters and to GBM as September the 21st is to maybe the casual fans or the wider audience.
Absolutely. Can I take you back to you after your recovery, you come back, you join GBM with Izzy, and you seem to have fitted in very effortless into the role. And your enthusiasm is coming through on that, and especially with your ties with Summit Sports and what you're doing there. Do you actually prefer this side of the business now at your stage of your career rather than the commentary, or do you miss it now and then?
It's a really good question. Really good question. Do I miss it? Of course. Would I like to be commentating on all the big fights? Of course. But, I made a decision. I had to move on. And, I've done a lot of stuff. And look, if DAZN pick up the phone and say, hey, we need you to do a show for us, or if TalkSport pick up the phone, like that they have, or BBC asked me to do AJ and Ngannou, and, I'm still here. And if people want me to commentate, then I very much love that. It is still my passion. Sitting by a ring and commentating on fighters that I admire and respect and love is is just it's an absolute pleasure. And you see AJ there, and maybe it's now for me, it's more sort of helping give back a bit more. I work at the food bank. I do things which are different now. I spend more time with my family, but I am hungry to work. And Ollie Weingarten came up to me very early on. I was still not 100%. I've been to see Katie, my friend, in fight in Dublin against Chantel Cameron, and I wasn't that well then at the back end of last year. And then Ollie came to me and he said, look, I want to start this business. And it's been something I've been thinking about for a long time. I looked after Savannah Marshall at Sky. I mentored a tennis player called Daniel Altmaier. I was very close to a 100-meter sprinter who just won silver at the Olympics, Imani Lancicot. And, I helped these guys and girls come through and gave them a lot of advice at Sky in a brilliant Sky scholarship scheme. And Sky had some wonderful things like that. And I'd like to, I wanted to give back to athletes. So I said to Ollie, look, I'd really like to mentor and help athletes and help guide them with storytelling, with media help, with just, on a rainy day, they're having a rough time and they can get on the phone to me. So I joined Ollie, and it's a startup, and he's worked so hard in getting Summit Sports going. We've got a great team, a great little team. It's a fantastic unit, and we've signed some really interesting people. Sophie Alish, the very, very talented German who's based now in Mallorca. She's got a huge Instagram following, but she's a fighter through and through. She was a really good amateur, and she's undefeated in 9. She'll be back in the autumn. We're really excited about Sophie. She's fantastic. We've just signed Kyle Davis, who we think is one of the best kept secrets in the sort of super middle, like heavyweight division. He sparred a lot with Ben Whittaker, with Callum Simpson, with Anthony Yard, and we're getting Kyle out at the end of September 28th in Nottingham. So really excited about that. Naraldi Yermeri, he's our Albanian. He's a crazy guy, and he's a lot of fun, and he's a real character. And we need to get him back in the ring. We've had just a waiting time to get these guys and girls back in the ring, but the autumn's going to be a big time for Summit. We're making some moves, steady, and just want to sort of help give back as much as possible. And we've got some big plans at Summit, and Ollie's doing a fantastic job. And every sort of day, I'm hearing sort of different people that he's maybe getting or not getting, or we're getting close to, and it's fantastic. It's tough. It's really hard out there. There's a lot of management. There's a lot of people who do fantastic jobs, and it's a bit like I'm finding. DAZN got their team. TalkSport got their team. I can't just sort of wander in and say, hey guys, I'm here. I say, look, I want to do it, but I've got to wait for an opportunity. And I'm happy that they've given me an opportunity at Summit. Izzy came up to me at a Johnny Nelson Foundation dinner, and he said, look, would you fancy commentating next week on my show? And I'd heard some really good things about GBM shows, and I went along. It was February. I wasn't 100% at that point. I thought, no, you know what? He's asked me to do it. That's really nice. I really enjoyed it. I thought his show was brilliant. And there's another link with Izzy as well, because his right-hand man's a guy called Mitch Costolo. And Mitch has got a deep connection with me because I worked with his dad at Sky. His dad was a fantastic boxing man, was really close to Naz, used to help us out at shows, was a brilliant sort of whip floor manager, guy that you needed to know. And Lee was terrific. Unfortunately, he was taken way too early. He had cancer, and we lost him, and it was tragic. And he left behind a 7-year-old boy in Mitch. And I always sort of wanted to know what happened to Mitch. And unbelievably, he ended up in the boxing world, and he did a sports science degree at uni in Sheffield, and then he's now working with Izzy. So that was an extra pull towards GBM. And I thought, look, they're a small group. They're a promotional group starting out, but they've got a lot of momentum, and now they're really gathering speed. And TalkSport YouTube helped us out, and then we've got this deal with DAZN now, and suddenly GBM are knocking on the door to, maybe, I'm not saying we're going to challenge the likes of Queensbury at Matchroom and Boxer and the Sowlands at Wasserman. Of course not. We're not at that level yet, but we're doing things right. We're trying to make each show better than the one before, and providing we can put great action on, some good 50-50 fights, develop some good prospects, the likes of Kieran Malloy and Tin and Bradley, and many of the others. There's some great young fighters coming through. Ed Hardy, the farm boy, look out for him. it's going to be really exciting. Amir Akbar, another good prospect that we've signed. So GBM are signing some good people. Summit are signing some good people. And it's tough. There's much bigger management companies out there. There's much bigger promotional companies out there. But
It's tough
I'm
competition, yeah.
It is tough competition, but that's a challenge for me. And I love a challenge.
That is.
I have been, and your question was, do I like being on the other? I do like it. I am enjoying it, being on that sort of management and promotional side. Excuse the baby noise in the background. That's my nephew, 3 months old. It's a big family gathering in our
bless her
house at the moment, so you'll hear one or two noises. But yeah, I think it's been great, and I'm really thankful to Ollie, and I'm really thankful to Izzy and Mitch for giving me that opportunity when. I left Sky and I was looking for different things. And and I think for me, I sort of modeled myself a bit on my dad. My dad's 83 now. He plays golf and he's still involved in business. And 30 years ago, he left a sort of big sort of jobs, CEO of companies, and he took some time out. And then he ended up going to Plural Work. He's a retailer. And I sort of looked at him and same sort of, a different sort of area, but same sort of thing. I came out of Sky and I love Sky, and I cut me open and I bleed Sky, and I always will, and I leave a lot of great memories and friends behind. But I think for me, and after everything I went through, I enjoyed my work with Ben, but I was particularly close to Eddie, and I think he'd moved on and Barney left, and I think it was a slightly different feel, and I think I needed a change. I did some darts commentary, which I really enjoyed, but I think I just needed new challenges, and I'm really enjoying this sort of plural work. So I'm doing some work with GBM, some work with Summit, which is really important to me. But I'm also working with an incredible new streaming platform for creators called Loungers TV, which is backed by Simon Cowell, working with a really impressive guy, a CEO called Scott Green. I've launched my podcast on there, the Voice of Boxing podcast. So that's just in its early stages, but that's another project. And I'm hoping to really help Loungers TV, because I think it's a fantastic platform where artists and creators get paid quickly, they get looked after, they get opportunities.
Excellent.
I think it's really cool. So I'm working with them. I'm also doing one or two other little projects too. I'm writing for Boxing News. So I'm sort of employing all those things that I was lucky enough to learn at Sky, and my writing and my voicing, my commentary, my strategy, my advising, all of those sort of things have come now to a point where, I can sit here with my family and think, what do I really want to do? And fortunately, the phone doesn't ring quite as much as when you're head of boxing at Sky. Of course not. And they're doing a phenomenal job at Sky and Boxer, and that's brilliant. And it's great to see what Turkey has done in the last year and a half in boxing, and we're getting these dream fights. And I've been to Saudi a few times, and he loves it, and he's giving these wonderful opportunities to fighters, and I just think it's amazing. And boxing's like that. It changes quickly and it transforms, and there's cycles. We just had the Olympics, and Lewis Richardson comes through as our bronze medalist, and you sort of go again with a new breed of fighters. I think it's fantastic. We've got Sky Nicholson and Raven Chapman. Raven's a good friend of mine who are fighting as the sort of first world title fight in Riyadh. I think that's brilliant. I think the Saudis are really bright. They're not just having everything in Riyadh. They've gone out to America. They put on that show there. They're coming to Wembley. We can't all wait for that. So I think they're being really clever, and then going back for Riyadh season. So look, boxing at top level has never been bigger, right? It reminds me of the halcyon days of your Lewis Holyfield, Tyson Bowe, or back even further to your Hagler Hearns, Leonard Duran. You're getting the great fights. It's brilliant for everybody, but also it's important that the youngsters have your GBMs, have your top tiers, have your small promoters, your Steve Goodwins, your Carl Greaves, all those John Peggs, all these great people that work really hard in Britain to keep the sport going at the sort of grassroots level. That's as important, because, of course, everyone wants to be on that Turkey table. You've got Ben up there now, Caller's up there, Eddie and Frank and George and Spencer.
The big table.
Martin Bacoli, of course, look what happens there. One fight just changes everything. And I said to Izzy, you want to be up there next year. Maybe it's Shaq, maybe it's Kieran, who knows who it's going to be. Maybe it's Tyson Gallagher. We don't know who it's going to be. Tori Ellis says she's going to tear up Tyson Gallagher. We love this sort of talk. We love this fun. We love this stuff. Look, I'm always going to be passionate. I don't mind what level it is. I don't mind whether it's the greatest fighter I've ever seen live, Floyd Mayweather, the greatest story
about the game.
in Britain. Ricky Hatton, Joe Calzaghe, the best fighter, I think, and Lennox Lewis, our side
Oh,
of the pond. But
yeah.
you know, I've had some amazing opportunities, and they'll always be there. And you know, it's very nice the way you spoke to me at the beginning, and have called me. I don't see myself as a voice of or a legend of. They've called my podcast the Voice of Boxing Podcast. Fine, whatever.
No, it's because you are. There's
No,
no two ways about it.
but I don't. You know, I think there are many better
Yeah.
commentators than me.
Heavy wears the crown, sir. Heavy wears the crown. I wanted, obviously, we would. You mentioned Turkey Al Sheikh there, and his Riyadh cards. You know, let's go through the card, very quickly if we can. There, Adam. Obviously, we got the undisputed Beterbiev and Bivol. There's some interesting matchups on the undercard, and one of my tweets that I put out. On paper, it looks very one-sided, but it's annoyingly intriguing, this card, some of these fights. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, you've just got to look at all the fights and all the cards that they're putting on. The one in LA was always going to be one more for the purists, you know, the main fight,
Yes.
the technical one. And I think that, you know, sometimes you get the heavyweights providing the thrills and spills. Sometimes you get the 5v5, which is, you know, the promoter's rivalry. I think it's all about storytelling. And I think they've done really well in giving us a different thing each and every time. You know we've got the Fury Usyk rematch to come at the back of the year. You know, that sells itself. But we also know there's a melting pot of heavyweights. You know, the likes of Joe Parker and Zhilei Zhang and all the Derek Chisora, all these guys that are, you know, are still. And Martin Bakole, of course, has announced himself after what happened against Jared Anderson. You know, you've got Jerome Miller, Andy Ruiz still knocking around. There's a load of them. And I think the heavyweights can all sort of almost all fight each other under those. You know, we want to see AJ Dubois, we want to see Fury, and we want to see either AJ Fury or the winners fight the winners. But there's also those other guys who are sort of, you know, vying for contention, and Turkey's giving them opportunities, but he's also giving the lighter weight fighters opportunities. You know, Mark Chamberlain, he seems to absolutely adore, and the fights that he's put on in LA were really competitive, and the fights he's putting on in London, again, any one of those could top a fight night show, couldn't they? I can't wait for Watsy and Hutchinson.
Yeah.
I can't wait for even Hamza Shiraz against Tyler Denny. Hamza a big favourite, but I spent a lot of time with Tyler, and you know, he really fancies his opportunity. And they are. And you say some of them look a little bit one-sided on October the 12th, but I think that they step up. Look what Daniel Dubois did against Filip Hrgović. Look what Hutchinson did against Craig Richards. I think when they're on that big stage, you know, they grow 30%, don't they? And it's going to be really interesting seeing, for example, AJ's a big favourite against Dubois, and rightly so. But it's going to be really interesting seeing how Dubois deals with the occasion. And if he can deal with the occasion and he gets into the fight, you know, he did ship a lot of right hands in the first couple of rounds against Hrgović, but look what he came out with, and he's in real form. So of course, AJ will be expected. AJ, with that Ben Davison connection, will be expected to deal with Daniel Dubois. I wouldn't like to be fighting AJ at this point in his career. I think he's rejuvenated. I think he's listening to Ben. I think they've got something great going there. But you can't write off Daniel. He hits really hard. He's got a real momentum with his career. He's got this great relationship with Don Charles. And I think those who are discounting Daniel are being unfair to him. I do worry about the occasion, because of course AJ is much more used to that sort of open air Wembley occasion, etc. But if Daniel can hold his nerve together and get into the fight, I think it could be really interesting. I think that's interesting, and I think all the other fights are going to be fantastic, and in each division. And on October the 12th, you've got that wonderful, you know, Beterbiev Bivol fight, which is a pick 'em, although most people I'm speaking to think Beterbiev. I sort of leaning towards Bivol, but I think that's a great fight, but it's still not probably one that's going to stop traffic with the casual crowd. Yes,
no,
you know, AJ,
absolutely correct.
Fury, Usyk, whatever, but you know, the 5v5 didn't stop traffic in the trade. It was enormous. But I think you do then on a night like that need a really, really powerful card or some really big names, and to have the likes of Shakur Stevenson and Chris Eubank and Ben Whitaker, and have obviously that Fabio Wardley Fraser Clark rematch, which is a fantastic one. To have that one that's a real corker in there, they've really thought about that. And I obviously like the Sky Nicholson Raven Chapman fight. I think Sky is a fantastic fighter. I think she's an incredible ambassador for the sport as well. But I know Raven, and I think Raven's got a lot of talent, and I think she'll go in with a huge amount of confidence, and it's her big opportunity and her big chance. So I really like that, and I think all the fights are interesting, and I think it's great that Ben Shalom's got a real seat at the table now. A lot of boxer fighters on there. Shakur signing for Matchroom, what a great signing for
signing.
I think it's fantastic. I was straight on the text to Eddie and Frank yesterday. That's another cracker that they pulled out there. But then again, Fabio joins Queensbury, and Chantel, another mate of mine in the sport, she's gone to Queensbury, and she's trying to revive her career. So sometimes it's just where you end up. But what's happening with Spencer and Eddie and Frank all working together is you're bringing Ben Shalom in now. You've got Kala Nissa too, who always seem to work with everyone. I said, Izzy, you all you need is a fighter or two. You've got a chance to be in there because Turkey wants the best fights. Izzy's a great promoter. I mean, he's an absolute natural in front of a crowd, and he's fantastic. He brings something different.
Yes, he is.
Former fighter, former cricketer, brings something a bit different to the table, and that's what we want. So I think Izzy's in a great position. I'm telling him, just continue, do a really good, 2 or 3 shows now. Next 2 or 3 shows, make them really powerful. Let's start really looking at which are the 1 or 2 fighters we could get onto that sort of Saudi stage. No one knows what's going to happen in 25, 26, but if this revolution is going to continue, if that Saudi Pro League might happen, who knows? But at the moment, we've got a really, really good autumn winter, potentially the best we've ever had. Difficult to compare eras, but I can't remember an autumn period where we've got those 3, the Wembley and the 2 Riyadh standouts. But you're also looking at fights like Jack Cattrall in with Regis Prograis. You're also looking at the return of Nick Ball. You're also looking at our show on September the 27th, Dalton Smith, September the 28th. All of these big things coming up, and there's going to be a lot of Box Nation shows, a lot of boxer shows. For the Sky audience, you've got TNT and Queensbury, you've got DAZN and Matchroom keep coming out with these perlers on both sides of the pond, because we can't get everybody in the Saudi shows. And the argument is that they take too many of the fights away from what could happen in Britain. But hey, they're giving the opportunity to fighters.
That's right.
They're getting paid lots of money for these fights, which is fantastic to see. Joe Cordina, having had that, that damaging, difficult night, suddenly gets this opportunity of a lifetime. Who'd have expected that? Okay, you of course expect Shakur to come through, but why not? If you've got this chance, you've got to take it. This is what the fighters are in there for. They're in there to become world champions. They're in there to make a lot of money. They're in there to set their families up. And they are doing the most dangerous thing. They are getting in the ring. And it comes around to what I was saying at the beginning of the show, that it's all about the fighters. And so long as they're looked after, and if I can't magic up, a wonderful career for each fighter, but if I can just help Carl Davis get a little bit more confident in front of the camera, tell his great story, the fact that he rides horses, he's an equestrian rider. I mean, there's Ed Hardy,
everybody's got a story that needs to be told.
Everyone's got a story that needs to be told. Jake Peacock as well that we've signed. There's some fantastic tales out there that need to be told by Summit, by GBM, and by our sport. And to keep boxing healthy and to keep the sport rolling, people need to be interested. There's no point turning on and tuning in if you're not. You have to have a hook.
Absolutely.
You have to have a grip. And look what we've got coming up. We've got some phenomenal fights. AJ Dubois and that wonderful one at Wembley. You've got the Undisputed in October. You've got the rematch that everyone wants to see in Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury on December the 21st. But in between that, you've got an absolute splattering of fantastic fights and great nights. Almost every week there's going to be something. And because people are waiting now really for this AJ Dubois card, it's sort of quiet at the beginning of September, but you wait. Back end of September, I think the 27th, 28th is absolutely crammed with our show. We're in Nottingham. There's the Dalton Smith night. There's that show, Wasserman show on the 27th. Then the October 4th, there's more. There's every weekend almost now. So I just
fantastic.
I think it's great for the sport. And I think that while the fighters are happy and active, they're good. And while the fans have got the option to watch this, and yeah, it's on lots of different channels. It's not easy to keep up. DAZN, Sky, where is it? TNT, what's it on? It's hard sometimes when a pay-per-view event's on 3 channels, but at least we're getting them. And isn't that great?
I mean, that's what we couldn't ask for more is, the availability of these fights. People, on Twitter, social media, all you hear is complaints. This fight doesn't get made. This fight doesn't get made. It's frustrating to the point when you do content creating that, or you're an analyst that not every fight the stars align. Certain factors have to marry up, and and especially now that the reemergence of all the promoters that are now dealing with each other under Takeo Sheikh's umbrella company, GEA. Do you feel that we've had an oversaturation of PPV in the last 10 years that's led to falling figures, piracy, that sort of thing? For me, I would rather the broadcasting companies pile it high, sell it cheap to avoid piracy. Is there any strategy that you would take forward going on with GBM about how to tackle that once you do get a PPV star?
It's a really interesting question, and I've got to be honest, I'm very glad I'm out of the Sky sort of discussions of that now, because it's always a difficult subject. America over here have been used to having pay-per-view events since before I got involved in the sport. People pay the $50, the $60, the $70, but when I was at Sky, we started pay-per-view in 1996 with Bruno and Tyson, and we began to average about 2 a year. Then it became, under the Eddie days, probably 4 a year, and it was really good fun because we got our teeth into a big show. We had those sort of, whether it was February, May, September, December, we had those ones, and we had the fighters. We had the likes of Frocham Groves and Hay and Bellew, and the Dillian White gave us some really good nights, but and AJ of course gave us huge nights, and then you'd get the Mayweather Pacquiao's that were finally made, and so I think, look, there's a lot of money that's needed to make big fights. So ultimately there has to be a pay-per-view element to those big fights, otherwise they're just not going to get made. So yes, you can have Turki Al-Rashid coming in and spending a lot of money on these things, but he wants to see a return from it. They're clever people. They're bringing the spotlight to Saudi. They're putting on great events for the country, and also they're hoping that they can turn boxing on its head and make it the most successful it's ever been. They want to do that. That's obviously their aim, to put on shows like no one else has done. I think with pay-per-view, look, we're a long way off at GBM at the moment. We're very fortunate and pleased to have a good DAZN deal. We're on there. DAZN is a subscription channel, so that's already something. But it seems like everything costs now. It's very difficult to, to do something for free. It's hard, and I think it's nice. And people say to me, "Oh, do you do? Would you do that for free? Or would you do that for?" I think sometimes it's good to give back, and that's why personally I do that work in the Acton Food Bank and stuff, to give back, which I do voluntarily. And my mum's a volunteer, and I think sometimes I don't know, it's good to do that. But let's be honest, in the boxing world, it's all about money, and fighters need money, and promoters want money, and managers want money, and everybody wants money. To you guys want money, and we want money to
I
live.
wish.
No, but I mean to live, and you have to, and you have to think like that. So it's just a heavier price to pay, I guess, with pay-per-view, because you've got. We always said at Sky, if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to watch it. We're not making you pay anything. It's up to you. If you want to get a Sky subscription, you can get one. If you want to pay the extra pay-per-view, you can get one. Is it expensive? Yes, for many people it is. But if people want to do it and spend their money doing that, rather than going out and, going out clubbing, or going out doing something else, or on adventure trips or holidays, or whatever people want to spend their money on, if you want to watch boxing, then you sort of have to, if you want to watch top level, pay the money. If you don't, Yes, you could stream it. Yes, you could join, become a pirate. And it was difficult at Sky Piracy, but we had a fantastic team who were working on that and making it as sort of safe as possible. And I always say that if you want to watch boxing at its best, you want to watch a Sky or a TNT or a DAZN broadcast, because you want to see it in full sort of Technicolor with the best vision and sound and commentary and all of that. And when you're watching the DAZN shows, they're getting all the different pundits. You're watching the Sky shows, you're getting your top guys and girls in, and you want to see, Anna and Johnny in HD or in crystal clear vision. You don't want to see it on a screen that's going to break down whatever. So yeah, there is always going to be ways around trying to avoid that. As far as Izzy and I go, I think we're just step by step, and we'll see what happens. And ultimately, we will be joining, I'm sure, an outfit that's a pay-per-view. But maybe if they do the Saudi Pro League, it will be a subscription thing. It will be something different. UFC have done a model. PFL now, Professional Fighters League, who I've done some work with, they have a model. Everyone's got a different way of skinning the cat, a different way of trying to sort of get the attention and provide the best outlet. And but ultimately, they're companies who want to pay money. I was having a conversation just last night. My 3 kids are teenagers. They're on their phones a lot. And my sister-in-law was saying, you know what, look, you've got to think, guys, that you're on your phone, it becomes an addiction and you're on it too much. And you've got to think that why the phone companies want you on their phones, because they're making money. They're not, the phone companies are probably telling their people don't go on phones too much, because you're getting obsessed with it. Whereas they want to make their money by getting people on their phone. So everyone that works in the business is trying to make money. We can't just do this for free if you're working. So ultimately, I look at it with pay-per-view is, if you don't want to watch it, don't. If you do, you're going to have to pay for the best quality. And if you want to stream and pirate it, then up to you, but you're not going to get the best quality. It's going to affect possibly the longevity of these pay-per-view events, because people might get annoyed that they're not making the revenue, and then things start to fall down, and we go back to, why isn't boxing as good as it once was? So there's always going to be difficult debates and arguments around pay-per-view. I think the truth is that people pay their money for stuff now, and it's up to DAZN and Sky and everyone else to provide a great service. That's what we always tried to do at Sky. We tried to provide a great service. They've got at the moment deals with Top Rank and Ben. They're providing great fights and nights. That's what you're getting. But with Sky, you're not paying necessarily for boxing. Not many people just pay for boxing. They pay for football. No. Or they pay for Formula One, right. They pay for cricket. And I think that's a choice when it comes to a pay-per-view event. I'm sad there's not as many pay-per-view events on this side of or your side of the pond in Britain, because I really enjoyed those nights where they were at the Manchester Arena, the Calm Brooks, the Hay and Bellews, the Froch and Groves. They were great, and they were storytell. It was fantastic, wasn't it? And they were. Yeah. We'd love to have AJ Fury 2-3 times in Britain, wouldn't we? But the reality is that the Saudis have come in and they've given us these dream fights. So we can't have everything. Let's enjoy it while the sun's shining. Turkey seems to love what he does. He's very passionate. It's great to see him with all the top fighters, and it's great to see him like in the Mark Chamberlains of the world and the Tyler Denny's and the young guys who've got an opportunity. It's fantastic. 2030 you put up there. They've got a vision. It was very hard going to Saudi Arabia 5 years ago with AJ and Andy Ruiz. It was a very different place. But I've had a lot of women on my team at the time, and it was really hard. But it's really good to go back to Riyadh now and see that there's women in top jobs, running corporations in business. And it's fantastic to see Raven and Sky, getting their just rewards and getting onto a show. And we should have more. Women's boxing is particularly close to my heart. We had a big show at the O2 a couple of years ago, which was fantastic. Katie Taylor is my friend. She's training an hour and a half away from here. Unfortunately, she's a little bit too busy for me to see her this time. But yeah, they're getting the attention and the respect that they deserve, which is fantastic. And long may it continue. So I think boxing's in a really good place at the moment. I've been in it a long time. I've seen peaks and troughs, ups and downs, times where Sky have committed to boxing, where everyone else fell away, BBC and ITV and all the others, but Sky, Setanta didn't work. Sky stayed with boxing year in, year out.
Yeah.
and have to be the best that they've been for the sport. DAZN have got big intentions now. I'm not just saying that with my GBM DAZN hat on, but my friend Mike Ridout is there now. He's an exceptionally bright guy, and I would imagine DAZN are going to get stronger and stronger. Yeah, it's great to see Matchroom and Queensbury flourish. You know, I'm obviously really close to Eddie and Frank Smith. I really like George and Frank Warren, and they've got great people around them now. And I'm
Beautiful team.
Yeah, I'm seeing new people come through, new presenters, new commentators. It's great seeing True Geordie do the YouTube stuff. And
Yes.
I love it. I love it. And I've got to admit it, I even love the Misfits. I even went to KSI and Tommy Fury. Okay, my daughter is in love with Tommy Fury, but I went to see that, and 20,000 people are packing the MEN and they're not leaving their seats. So they're doing something right. Okay, it may not be what the purists want to hear or want to see, but I enjoyed my time with KSI and Logan Paul when we did that a few years back, and I'm still quite close with Ethan, with Bazinga and Joe Weller and those guys. And yeah, look, everyone's trying to entertain, and I think that's the key. It all comes back to storytelling. You got a great story like Frocham Groves that was made, that got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and ended up at Wembley Stadium, and everyone thought it would sell 40,000, 80,000, bang, like that. That was the beginning. And then people realized, you got a good story, hook into it. Don't forget the stories. Even I say to Izzy all the time, don't forget the stories. It's all about the stories. We had one at York Hall when we had Tycee Gallagher and Stevie Levy, and suddenly they started firing at each other on the fight week. I said, right, let's just go with this, guys. We've got a great story here. You've got to be on your toes. Eddie Hearn was always on his toes. When he saw something,
Always.
we went for it. That's why I loved working with him. We spoke 5-6 times a day. That's like when he left Sky, and I knew it was going to happen after about a year. It was like a divorce for me. It was almost like it was. I took it. It was really hard because we'd spent so much time together, and we had such a great rapport that just worked. And it was really sad that, and really hard. But then I got a chance to work with Ben, and Ben's a really bright guy, and he's done fantastically well with Boxer, and it's fantastic to see someone else grow. So, yeah, look, what I'm looking at is I'm seeing everybody thriving, which is great. And Ollie and I and Duncan and the team have got some hard work at Summit in the autumn, and Izzy and Mitch and I and the team at GBM have got some hard work there. But we like hard work, and we want to put it in. And let's see what happens. And I reckon by 2025, I'm hoping that both the companies I'm aligned to are going to be in a really good place, and we'll be looking after a great squad of different athletes in Summit, and really helping them and showing what we can do with our different skill sets. I'm rubbish at a lot of things, but I know what I can do. And same with the other guys. And with GBM, they've got a fantastic young team. Guy called Alex Maver, who's brilliant. He's a great young reporter and brain. They've got fantastic people behind the scenes who don't get the recognition. Mitch Costello, we've talked about. But Izzy is a fantastic promoter. He's the core. He's the epicenter of it all. And, he believes he's going to be the best promoter in the world. And why not? Have that belief.
Absolutely.
He's got respect for Eddie and Frank and everyone that's come before him. But he wants that spot. And Eddie wanted it once upon a time. And so did George and Frank. And it's going to be really interesting to see how, George Warren comes through and Izzy comes through and all the others, and what the next 5 to 10 years hold in store. I just hope that my health holds up so that I can be around to see it.
Absolutely. Adam, you have been unbelievably superb with us at iBoxingHub today. You are a Broadcast Award winner, RTS Award winner, nominated for a BAFTA, SGA, and a Sportsbook Award. Thank you for coming along to iBoxingHub for us, and D-Rock Apparel, who sponsor our show. You have absolutely made my day. I'm in shock still. Shock here, Mr. Neutral. Just being able to converse with you, and meet you is an absolute honour and a pleasure. And I speak for all of us that we wish you every success in the next 10 years with GBM Summit Sports, and make them onto a world stage, on the world stage, and just going forward for the boxing community, for all of us. We do appreciate everything you're doing, and we wish you, your family, and everyone connected with you such good love and blessings from all of us, the fans. We hope to see you soon again in the commentary one day. We hope you get that call. Adam, thank you very much. This is iBoxingHub in partnership with D-Rock Apparel. Take it away. Yes. Please check out our great sponsors, D-Rock Apparel, in the links below. And if there's anything you like in the website, anything at all, please put iBoxingHub24 in the promo code and enjoy 40% off. Adam, once again, thank you, sir. Wish you all the best, and please, don't be a stranger to us at iBoxingHub. We'd love to talk to you again in the next episode of GBM and Summit Sports Evolvement. Thank you, sir, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks very much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, and I'm grateful to be here, and it's a pleasure to talk to you guys. Thank you.
Take care.
It's another band. All the Muslim cars now with your bag it up. I start my card with a sweet one, please. Someone